Now, the biggest mistake that I'll see powerlifters make in meet prep has to do with how they're going about their peaking programs. And this is something that you can fix today before you even compete. And now I'll paint a picture for you here. So most powerlifters who have about a 1,200 pound total aren't gonna miss their PR attempts on meet day because they're having a bad day. They're gonna miss it because they accidentally peaked too early instead of training precisely in accordance with their timing for how they peak for meet day. Now, my name is Matt Taylor. I'm a world powerlifting champion, and I've been a coach to over 50 lifters who've taken medals at their powerlifting meets and 3 national records. And by the end of this video, you're gonna know exactly how to use my meet readiness system, which is the exact 3-step process that I use to help my lifters make sure that their heaviest lifts will happen on the platform and not just in the gym when they're having a good day. And if you are stuck in a plateau right now and you're not sure how you're gonna hit that next set of PRs at your upcoming meet, you can click the link down in the video description to get in touch with me directly, and we'll talk back and forth to see how I can help you out with bringing some PRs to the platform. So here's the trend that we'll see. A lifter's gonna hop on basically a 5-week peaking program they found online, and on week 3, things are gonna feel pretty dang good. They're gonna hit some sort of new PR, maybe it's 415 for a double. And we'll talk about the rest of these numbers in a second, right? So you hit 415, and then you start to go into the next week and you're feeling pretty banged up, and you're supposed to take 420 for a double and take another 5-pound PR. It doesn't go great. And then on week 5, you're in the taper, and then meet day rolls around. And frankly, this isn't really a confident feeling coming into a meet like this, because your best lifts were 2 weeks ago, you had a bad session and then you tapered. And so you open at 395, which is where you had planned to open. It feels all right. And so then you go with a PR match at 415 for your second attempt. And I'm just rounding to the nearest 5 pounds here for easy numbers. And it's a lot harder than you thought it was gonna be. And so you say, hey, you know what? Instead of taking the 430 that I wanted to take at the meet, I'm gonna go conservative, take 425, and you miss. And then on your bench and your deadlift, it's kind of the same story where, hey, week 3, the block was awesome. You hit new PRs in prep, but it just didn't translate to the platform. And so you walk out of the meet and you're just feeling like, what the heck did I do wrong? Right? And so we have to ask this question of, why does this unpredictable performance come up, where lifters will have good training sessions, will notice, hey, you are getting stronger, you hit PRs in the gym, but it just doesn't translate into competition day. And so here's the 3 steps that I'll use when I'm peaking a lifter for a competition, especially if it's my first time working with them, so that we can make their heaviest lifts happen on meet day instead of just on a good day like we're seeing over here. So let's talk about some of these numbers, okay? So step 1, before we even worry about signing up for the powerlifting meet, we just need to look at your notes. And so we could take a look at that last training cycle you did and look at your weight, your reps, and your RPE combinations to give us an estimated max value, okay? Now this is gonna be a projection of like, how strong do we think you are on any given day? And we can see here with this lifter, week 3 is their best one, and then it's kind of downhill from there. And I've got a lifter I work with named JR who just hit a 22-pound personal record on his squat in his last peak, where he peaks really well on week 3. Myself, I peak a little more like 5 weeks, but it looks a bit different. So JR is this black line here. If I were to keep pushing him after week 3, he would definitely get weaker. Myself, I tend to flatline after week 3 into week 4, so I'll maintain my numbers, but I get a nice boost into week 5. And so for me, it's worth running that training block for an extra 2 weeks. With JR, we tend to run into really a lot of like injuries and staleness and issues with our next block when we push more than 3 weeks. And so then once you know how long your training block should be, meaning, where do you hit your highest performances in your training block, then you're just gonna work backwards from meet day and put meet day on the block. And so in the example of this lifter, we would want to actually have a 3-week meet prep, not a 5-week, because they get strongest on week 3. And so then our last step here is just making some small adjustments for the skill of competing and doing singles. And so going back to that example of JR, I'll give you some of the numbers we ran in his off season, where we're typically in that 70 to 75% range at about an RPE of 7. Now, that's not gonna build a lot of skill, but he does get stronger doing that. And so while he might do 5 sets of 4, 70 to 75% of his daily max, on his peak, what we actually did is we worked backwards from his testing date. So our goal was taking about sort of mid 400s as a squat, and we back cycled about 5% week over week with 1 to 2 singles leading up to our testing date, and then just reduce the number of back down sets we did by the number of singles. So we had done 2 singles, and then we did 2 back downs instead of 4, all the way up to the meet. And lo and behold, week 3, 463, 22 pounds over his last max at an RPE of 8.5 with lots in the tank. And now all of this works because instead of trying to guess and find the right template online and hope you got the right one and all of this, you can literally just look at observed data. And so you can say, hey, how am I actually getting stronger? How is my body responding to the training that I'm already doing that's working for me? And then just make a couple of small modifications to the timing and the style of training to be more competition specific, and keeping the core of what works for you so that you can show up on meet day predictably, knowing exactly what you can hit for your first, second, and third attempts. And if you're looking for help with hitting the biggest possible PRs on meet day and customizing your strategy even further, you can click the link in the video description to get in touch with me directly. I'll personally reach out and we'll talk back and forth to figure out what would working together actually look like in terms of programming and overall strategy and anything else that we actually need to account for with your training.